Lucky approached the SUV first. His paws were silent on the concrete, but his presence was impossible to ignore. He stopped right at the rear passenger door where Lily sat. The little girl didn't cry or scream. She just stared at the dog with wide, pleading eyes. Her hand moved again. Palm out, thumb tucked in, fingers over. A signal. Clear repeated. Brent felt the hair on his arm stand up. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a child playing games. This was real. Behind him, the man walking toward Rachel had paused, seeing Lucky's movement. His smile faltered for a split second. Brent clocked it immediately. "Excuse me," Brent called out, his voice calm but firm as he walked around the SUV. "Is everything okay here?" Rachel turned, startled. "Oh yeah, just grabbing a drink. My little girl and I are on the road. She's getting a bit cranky." She forced a smile, but her eyes glanced between Brent and the stranger behind her. Suddenly, realizing how close the man had gotten, the man tried to retreat into casual mode. "I was just asking her if she had change for the vending machine," he said smoothly. Hands up. Didn't mean to startle anyone. Brent's eyes didn't leave his face. "That your car over there?" he asked, nodding toward the sedan. The man didn't answer right away. "Yeah," he said, just stopping to stretch. "Long drive." Brent nodded slowly, as if accepting the answer, but he wasn't. His attention returned to Lily, who was now reaching toward Lucky through the window, her little fingers pressed to the glass. Her eyes didn't leave Brent's. There was something haunting in them. "Ma'am?" Brent said gently to Rachel. "Do you mind if I ask how long have you had this little girl with you?" Rachel blinked, confused. "She's my daughter." Lucky barked once loud and sharp. Not aggressive, just enough to make everyone freeze. Rachel turned quickly toward the car. "It's okay, sweetie," she called, clearly trying to calm the child, but Lily shrank back into her seat, lip trembling. Brent stepped closer. "Can I ask for your ID, ma'am?" Rachel stiffened. "Why?" Brent showed his badge. "Because I just witnessed that child use a recognized distress signal. And this dog," he gestured to Lucky, "is a retired search and rescue canine who's never been wrong." The silence that followed was heavy. The man near the vending machine took a single step backward. Lucky growled low in his throat, eyes locked on him. Rachel laughed nervously. "There must be a mistake. She's probably just playing." Brent's voice was quiet but unshakable. 3-year-olds don't randomly make that gesture unless they've seen it. And believe me, when they do, it means something. Lucky placed a paw gently on the car door and gave a short whine. Brent stepped to the side window and looked in again. Lily was now crying silently. She mouthed something. He couldn't hear it, but he could read lips. "Help me." His heart cracked. He turned slowly back to Rachel. "You need to step away from the vehicle now." Rachel's mask faltered. Her hand moved slightly toward her back pocket. Brent raised his voice. "Don't." Lucky barked again, louder. That's when Rachel turned and ran. It was fast, almost too fast to react. She sprinted toward the trees behind the rest stop, disappearing into the brush in seconds. Brent made a move, but Lucky didn't chase. He stayed with the girl. The man near the vending machine took off in the opposite direction, only to be slammed into by a trucker who'd been watching nearby. The trucker wrestled him to the ground with surprising strength. Brent, still focused, went to the SUV door and opened it carefully. "Hey there," he whispered. "You're safe now." Lily threw herself into his arms the second the buckle came off, clinging to his jacket like it was the only solid thing in her world. People were now gathering, murmurs spreading, but Brent only cared about one thing. She was safe, and it had all started because a brave little girl remembered a single signal and a dog who still knew exactly what to do. Brent cradled the trembling child in his arms, shielding her from the small crowd forming near the vending machines. Her tiny fingers clutched the collar of his jacket like a lifeline. Lucky stood by his side, alert but calm, watching every person who came too close. The trucker who'd tackled the second man held him firmly to the ground, waiting for instructions. "I seen him circling the lot twice," the trucker grunted. "Didn't look right. Glad I trusted my gut." Brent gave him a firm nod of gratitude. "You did the right thing. Thank you." A woman with a phone to her ear approached cautiously. "I called the police. They're sending units now." 10 minutes out. Brent turned toward the trees, scanning for any movement. Rachel, if that was her real name, had vanished. She was either hiding or already fleeing through the woods. Either way, Brent knew the police would have to pick up that part of the chase. His job right now was Lily. "Sweetheart," he said gently, crouching low, "you're safe now. No one's going to hurt you, okay?" Lily looked up at him. Her cheeks were tear-streaked and dirty, but her eyes were slowly losing their fear. "Lucky came," she whispered. Brent smiled and glanced at his partner. "Yeah, Lucky's good at knowing when someone needs help." She reached out and touched Lucky's ear. The dog leaned into her softly, a gentle reassurance. Brent lowered his voice. "Can I ask you something, Lily? That signal you gave me, did you learn it?" She hesitated, then mumbled. "Mommy showed me. She said, if I'm ever with a stranger, and I can't say it out loud, I should do that." She demonstrated it again, palm out, thumb in, fingers down. Her little hand shook. Brent felt a sharp ache in his chest. The mother had taught her well, but that also confirmed something else. This woman, Rachel, wasn't her mother. "Do you know your mummy's name?" he asked. "Emily," Lily said quickly. "She sings to me at bedtime, and she has curly hair, not like her." She glanced toward the woods. Brent nodded, reassuring her. "We're going to find your real mummy, okay? And you're going to go home." Just then, 2 state troopers pulled into the lot, their lights flashing but sirens off. Brent stood up and waved them over. He gave a quick summary, keeping his voice low so Lily wouldn't get scared again. One officer took the restrained man from the trucker and cuffed him. The man didn't say a word, just glared at Brent with hollow, angry eyes. "We'll run him through the database," the officer said, "and search the woods for the woman." Brent handed over his badge number and a brief statement, but his focus remained on Lily. She sat on the pavement now, beside Lucky, stroking his soft fur. One of the officers returned with a laptop from his patrol car. After 10 minutes of radio chatter and photo comparisons, the truth hit them like a punch in the chest. Lily had been reported missing 3 days ago from a town over 200 miles away. Her parents, Emily and Matt Greer, had issued an Amber Alert after she vanished from her backyard during an afternoon of play. A neighbor, a woman who had occasionally babysat Lily, was also missing. "Name's not Rachel," the officer said, shaking his head. "It's Sandra Blake, 32 years old. She was once arrested for a mental health incident involving another child, but no charges were filed. Looks like she snapped again." Brent rubbed the back of his neck, his expression darkening. "She had Lily in plain sight, buckled in, acted normal. If I hadn't seen that signal." The officer looked down at Lily. "Kid's a little miracle." Brent agreed. Lucky rested his head on Lily's lap again. The girl smiled weakly, finally looking like a child again for the first time since Brent had seen her. A voice crackled over the trooper's radio. "We've got the woman. Found her in the ravine, trying to cut through the woods. Bringing her in now." Relief rippled through the group, but Brent barely reacted. His eyes were on Lily, whose hand was now wrapped in Lucky's fur. For now, she was safe, but her journey was far from over. Lily sat in the back seat of the patrol car now, sipping juice from a box the officers had found in their emergency kit. Her small feet dangled above the floor, swinging gently as she leaned against Lucky, who had climbed in beside her. The gentle dog hadn't left her side once since that first moment in the parking lot. Brent stood nearby with his arms crossed, watching everything. He'd seen a lot in his years as a canine officer, but something about this case clung to him like wet cloth. It wasn't just that Lily had been kidnapped, it was how close she had come to vanishing completely, taken across state lines, sitting in plain view while dozens of people passed her without realizing what was wrong. He thought about how fragile trust was. A woman who had once babysat Lily, someone known to the family. She hadn't stormed in or broken down doors. She'd simply asked Lily to come with her, and at 3 years old, what was she supposed to do? The other officers came over, one of them holding a tablet. "The parents have been contacted. They're already on their way. ETA is just over 2 hours." Brent let out a breath. "Good. That little girl needs her mom." The second officer looked over toward the edge of the parking lot where Sandra Blake now sat cuffed on the ground, flanked by 2 deputies. Her face was pale, her eyes glassy and distant. She didn't look like a monster. "That's what made it worse. She's talking," the officer said. "Kind of. Says she was just protecting the girl. Says the parents were unfit, that Lily needed her." Brent shook his head slowly. "That kind of delusion is dangerous. She didn't take Lily for ransom. She took her because, in her mind, she believed she was saving her. She had diapers, snacks, toys all bought recently. She was planning to keep her for a long time, the officer added grimly. No signs of physical harm so far, but the trauma, Brent nodded. Yeah, it's the invisible scars that last the longest. He walked back over to the cruiser and crouched down by the door. Lily looked up from her juice, blinking. Hey champ, he said gently. You doing okay? She nodded a little. When's Mummy coming? Soon, Brent smiled. She's coming fast. I bet she misses you like crazy. Lily tilted her head. Sandra said she didn't want me anymore. Brent felt something break in his chest. He softened his voice even more. That's not true, Lily. Your mummy has been looking for you every second since you left. She never stopped. That Lady Sandra, she lied. Lily blinked back tears. She said Mummy yelled too much. That she was gonna take me where no one yelled ever. Brent's throat tightened. He'd heard stories like this before, cloaked in comfort, lies wrapped in promises. But Lily had been strong enough to remember what mattered. The signal, the truth, the deep down feeling that something was wrong. Lucky nuzzled her arm, and Lily smiled faintly. I like your dog, she said. Brent chuckled. He likes you too. He's been with me for a long time, helped find lots of people. But today was special. She leaned into Lucky. He's soft. Brent stood up again as a woman in civilian clothes approached him from one of the newer patrol cars. She had a calm demeanor but sharp, observant eyes. I'm with Child Protective Services, she said. We'll take Lily in temporarily until her parents arrive. Keep her in a calm environment. Brent shook his head gently. She's not going anywhere without seeing her mom first. I'll stay with her. The CPS worker hesitated. Technically, she's in state custody now. You're not. Brent flashed his badge again. Technically, I'm not leaving. The woman looked at him, saw the set of his jaw, then sighed. All right, we'll set up a quiet space inside the welcome center. You and the dog can stay with her. Brent opened the back door and lifted Lily gently into his arms. She didn't protest. She just tucked her head into his shoulder. Come on, kiddo, he whispered. Let's wait for your real happy ending. And with Lucky trotting beside them, they headed into the building where the past 3 days of fear were finally about to end. Emily Greer drove like her heart was on fire. Her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Every highway sign blurred past her tear-filled eyes, but she didn't blink. She couldn't. She hadn't slept in 3 days, barely eaten. The only thing keeping her going was the voice on the other end of the phone just an hour ago. We have her, your daughter's safe. Those words hadn't seemed real at first. After days of flyers, of waiting by the phone, of crying herself to sleep with Lily's stuffed giraffe clutched to her chest, Emily had stopped hoping she'd hear anything more than regrets and condolences. But then came the call. And now, all that mattered was reaching her baby. Matt, her husband, was in the passenger seat, talking quietly with the officers escorting them by phone. His voice trembled as he repeated instructions, but he was trying to stay strong for Emily. And for Lily. As they turned off Highway 57 and spotted the line of patrol cars and flashing lights at the rest stop, Emily's heart nearly gave out. She didn't wait for the car to come to a full stop before she flung open the door. Brent was inside the small visitor center, sitting in a plastic chair beside Lily, who was curled up on a blanket with Lucky's head in her lap. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of a vending machine and the low murmur of Brent's voice, telling her a gentle story about a dog who had once found a lost hiker. Lily wasn't crying anymore. Her eyes were open but distant, as if her little mind was still sorting through the confusion. Then the door burst open. Lily, Emily's voice cracked as it echoed through the room. Lily looked up sharply, her eyes locking on the woman in the doorway. Mummy, she whispered. Emily didn't wait. She ran to her daughter, dropped to her knees, and pulled her into her arms like she never wanted to let go. Sobs shook her body as she kissed Lily's head again and again. I'm here, baby. Mummy's here. Matt entered moments later, covering his mouth with both hands as tears spilled down his cheeks. He slowly knelt beside them, wrapping his arms around both Emily and Lily. A family finally whole again. Lily blinked up at them, confusion still flickering in her eyes. You came, she said softly. Of course we came. Emily choked out. We've been looking for you every second. She said you were mad, Lily mumbled. She said you didn't want me. Emily's heart shattered all over again. No, baby, never. She lied to you. You're my world. Brent quietly stepped back, giving them space. Lucky remained at Lily's side, tail thumping once, content. Brent had seen a lot of reunions, but this one got to him. Maybe because of how close it had come to being a tragedy. Maybe because of how quiet Lily had been, how small, or maybe because she had saved herself. Emily finally looked up at Brent, tears still sliding down her cheeks. You saved her. Brent shook his head slowly. She saved herself. She gave the signal. Lucky just knew how to listen. Emily held Lily tighter. I taught her that signal when she was 2. Just once, when I saw a video about it. I never thought she remembered it. She did, Brent said gently. And it worked. The CPS worker stood nearby, now silent, respectfully letting the moment unfold. She eventually approached and knelt beside Emily. We'll need to take a full statement, and there will be some paperwork, but your daughter's safe, and she's going home with you tonight. Emily nodded, unable to speak. She only clung to Lily harder, as Brent stepped outside into the evening air. Matt followed and shook his hand firmly. We owe you everything. Brent just looked toward the setting sun. You don't owe me anything. Just hold her close, and never let her forget how strong she is. Back inside, Lily curled into her mother's lap as Lucky lay beside them. For the first time in days, she closed her eyes peacefully. She was safe, she was loved, and the worst was behind her. By morning, the entire country knew Lily's name. A local reporter who had arrived late to the scene the night before had posted a short video of the reunion at the rest stop, a blurry clip of a mother collapsing to her knees, holding her daughter, like she was clinging to life itself. It spread online in hours, but what made the story explode wasn't just the rescue, it was the detail buried in the police report that the reporter had highlighted in bold. The child used a hand signal recognized internationally as a sign of distress to alert a passerby she was in danger. That single line lit a spark across social media. Parents shared it. Teachers commented on it. Pediatricians applauded it. Thousands of users began tagging friends and family, saying things like, "Teach your kids this signal, it could save their life." Morning shows picked up the story by sunrise. By the time Emily and Matt brought Lily home, reporters were already camping out on their front lawn. Emily, still emotionally raw, didn't want to speak, but Matt agreed to give a short interview with Brent at his side. Brent hadn't planned on staying involved. After handing off the report to local authorities, he had every intention of going back to his quiet town, back to working part-time at the sheriff's office and training rescue dogs on weekends. But something about Lily kept pulling him back in. Maybe it was the way she held on to Lucky even after falling asleep, or how, in the middle of the night, she'd whispered, "Thank you for coming," like he was the only person she trusted. So when Matt asked him to join the interview, Brent agreed. Standing outside the Greer home, microphones pointed their way. Brent explained everything, how he'd spotted the signal, how Lucky had responded, how they'd realized the woman wasn't Lily's real mother. The reporter asked, were there any other signs something was wrong? Brent glanced at Lucky, then back at the cameras. You can't always see danger coming. Sometimes the person looks normal, speaks kindly, smiles, but children know, and we need to trust them, especially when they use a signal like that. It might be the only chance they get. Another reporter leaned forward. Do you think this story would have ended differently if you hadn't recognized the hand gesture? Brent didn't hesitate. Yes, I think she would have disappeared. Completely. That silence, hanging in the air, hit everyone hard. Inside the house, Lily watched the interview from the couch, snuggled under a soft blanket with Lucky curled beside her like a bodyguard. Emily sat on the armrest, her fingers stroking Lily's hair. Do you understand what happened, baby? Emily asked gently. Lily nodded. I was scared, but I remembered what you showed me. Emily's voice broke. I'm so proud of you. You were so brave. Is Lucky staying? Lily asked, looking up with wide eyes. Emily smiled faintly. No, honey, he has to go home with Brent, but maybe we can visit them sometime. Lily's bottom lip pushed out. I love Lucky. Emily kissed her head. I know you do, and I think Lucky loves you too. Back outside, as the interview wrapped up, one reporter asked, what's next for you, Officer Brent? Brent chuckled. Technically, I'm retired, but maybe Lucky and I will visit a few schools. Maybe we can help teach kids about the signal. Give parents tools. Remind people that heroes don't always wear badges. Sometimes they're 3 years old. The camera shutters clicked like applause dot. By that afternoon, Lily's story had reached millions. Schools began adding the hand signal to safety lessons. News anchors demonstrated it live. Hashtags trended for hours, but none of that mattered to Brent as much as the quiet moment later that day. When he bent down to say goodbye to Lily, she wrapped her arms around his neck tightly and whispered, "You and Lucky are my heroes." Brent swallowed hard. "You were the bravest person there, Lily." She shook her head. "No, I was just really scared." Brent smiled. "And you asked for help. That's what brave people do." As he and Lucky walked back to the truck, Brent looked once more at the little girl who had saved herself with nothing more than a quiet signal and a whole lot of courage. 2 weeks later, Brent and Lucky stood on a small auditorium stage in front of 54th graders in a rural elementary school. A bright projector behind them showed a simple drawing of the hand signal, palm out, thumb tucked, fingers down. Brent wasn't used to this kind of attention. In his days as an K-29 officer, he preferred the field, the long nights, the silent woods, the disciplined partnership with his dog. But ever since Lily's story hit the news, he'd been flooded with requests from schools, parent groups, and local law enforcement departments across the state. And the thing was, he couldn't say no, because every time he thought of backing out, he pictured Lily's little face at that rest stop. How quietly terrified she'd been. How she hadn't screamed or thrown a tantrum, just silently asked for help in the only way she could. "Okay," Brent said, holding up his own hand. "I want everyone to try this with me. Palm out, like you're waving." A sea of small hands rose into the air. "Now take your thumb and tuck it across your palm." They all copied him, a little clumsy, but eager. "Now, curl your fingers down over your thumb, like you're making a fist." Giggles erupted as some of the kids exaggerated the motion, but a few understood immediately. "That's called a silent hand signal," Brent said. "And if you're ever in trouble, if someone is hurting you, or scaring you, or making you go somewhere you don't want to go, you can do that signal. It's your way of saying, 'I need help, but I can't say it out loud.'" One girl in the front row raised her hand. "Is that what the little girl did?" Brent nodded. "Exactly. Her name's Lily. She's very brave. She remembered this signal from when she was really little. She used it, and it helped people around her realize something was wrong." Another boy asked, "Did the dog save her too?" Brent smiled and looked at Lucky, who was sitting patiently beside him, wearing a vest that read "Retired K9 still on duty." "Yeah," Brent said, scratching Lucky's ears. "He saw the signal, and he helped get to her in time." The teacher, standing off to the side, dabbed her eyes discreetly with a tissue. These were just kids, barely old enough to ride the school bus alone. But every one of them now had a tool they hadn't known about before. And it wasn't just the kids who were listening. Many of their parents had come for this assembly too, standing in the back, arms folded, some nodding, some blinking away emotion. After the presentation, the children swarmed Brent and Lucky with questions and hugs. Brent answered patiently, kneeling to let Lucky meet every curious hand and pat. But later, as the crowd cleared, a woman approached Brent privately. She looked tired, with soft worry lines under her eyes. Her daughter, maybe 9 or 10, stood beside her silently. "I just wanted to thank you," the mother said, her voice trembling. "My daughter ... She told me something last night, something that happened last year. She never said anything until she saw your story on the news." Brent's face turned serious. "I'm so sorry to hear that. But I'm glad she finally felt safe to speak up. She showed me the signal," the mother whispered. "She practiced it in the mirror after seeing it. Said she wanted to remember it, in case it ever happened again." Brent glanced at the girl, who was avoiding his gaze. "You were very smart to learn that," he said gently. "And you were brave to tell your mum." The girl looked up, and for just a moment, her eyes lit up. "I like your dog," she said. Brent chuckled. "Yeah, a lot of people do." He crouched down and gave Lucky a gentle pat. "He's a good listener." That evening, as Brent drove home with Lucky in the passenger seat, he thought about how everything had changed. What started as a quiet rest stop moment between a frightened child and a retired cop had rippled outward in ways he never expected. It wasn't just about Lily anymore. It was about every kid who had felt afraid and alone and now had a silent voice they could use. And Lucky, he just rested his head on the seat and wagged his tail, content as ever. For him, the mission was still on. The email had come from a producer at the Morning Window, one of the most watched national morning shows in the country. At first, Brent thought it was spam. He wasn't a celebrity. He didn't chase publicity. He was just a retired canine officer who happened to be in the right place at the right time. But then he read the message again. We believe this story can save lives. We'd love to bring you, Lucky, and Lily's family onto the show to share what really happened. Please consider. Brent wasn't sure. The attention had already been overwhelming. Dozens of local appearances, hundreds of messages from parents, invitations from law enforcement departments across the state. He didn't crave the spotlight. But when Emily called him the next day, he listened. Lily wants to go, she said. She's been practicing what she say. I think it helps her process it, and I think it could help a lot of other kids too. So Brent said yes. Now, 3 weeks after the rest stop rescue, Brent stood in the green room of a glass-walled studio in New York City. Lucky at his side, a microphone being clipped to his collar. Lily sat across the room in her mother's lap, swinging her legs nervously, dressed in a soft yellow dress and holding her favorite stuffed giraffe. The show host, Diane Lane, walked in moments before they went live. She knelt down in front of Lily and spoke softly. You don't have to say anything you don't want to, sweetheart. Just smile if you're nervous, okay? Lily nodded and hugged her giraffe tighter. When the cameras rolled, Brent sat on the couch beside Emily and Matt, with Lily nestled in between. Lucky lay at their feet, calm and composed as always. The lights were bright, but the tone was warm. Diane began gently. It started like any other stop. A tired driver, a little girl in a car seat, and a stranger who looked like a mother. But what happened next was anything but ordinary. She turned to Brent. Officer Brent, tell us what you saw that day. Brent adjusted his collar. I saw a little girl give a signal most people still don't recognize. A tiny hand gesture that meant, I need help. I only knew what it was because of some training we'd done years ago. Lucky saw her too. He reacted before I did. And the woman? Diane asked carefully. She was calm, seemed normal, but Lily's eyes told a different story. That's what I paid attention to. Emily chimed in, her voice slightly shaky. I taught Lily that signal when she was 2. Once, just once. I never imagined she'd need it. I didn't even think she remembered, but she did, Diane said, turning to Lily with a soft smile. Lily, do you remember using the signal? Lily nodded shyly. I was scared. I saw the dog and the man. I hoped they'd know. The studio was quiet. Even the camera crew had stopped moving. And how did you feel when Lucky came to your car? Diane asked gently. Lily looked at Lucky, then smiled. Safe. Brent felt a lump rise in his throat. The segment continued with video clips of the original rest stop footage. The now famous photo of Lily hugging Lucky in the patrol car, and a short animation teaching the distress signal. They even showed a quick demonstration by school children practicing the motion. When the interview wrapped, Diane turned serious. We believe this story can save lives. That's why we're launching the Safe Signal Project, a national effort to educate families, schools, and communities about the hand gesture that helped Lily get rescued. Emily's eyes filled with tears again. Brent glanced down at Lily. Her face was brighter now, braver. She looked like a girl who had taken her story back. Backstage, as the cameras turned off, Diane knelt beside Lily and hugged her. A hero, you know that? Lily smiled. I was just scared. Diane winked. Sometimes scared people change the world. Later that night, as Brent and Lucky boarded the flight home, he looked out the window at the clouds below and whispered, We did good, partner. Lucky thumped his tail once and rested his head on Brent's boot. 3 months after the rest stop rescue, the world had moved on, but Lily's story hadn't faded. It had quietly rooted itself into classrooms, training manuals, parenting blogs, and conversations that might one day save another child. Brent knew this, not because he followed the media. He didn't care about fame or headlines. He knew because of the letters. They arrived every week, handwritten notes, emails, school drawings, some from children, others from teachers, parents, even law enforcement officers. Many included photos, a group of second graders holding up their palms in the signal, a teacher's whiteboard showing the gesture drawn in chalk, a security officer's lapel pin shaped like a tiny closed fist. Each one was a quiet reminder. Something lasting had come from that day. Brent kept them in a worn box under his coffee table, and once a week, he read them aloud to Lucky. That morning, one envelope stood out. It was postmarked from Lilystown, addressed in a child's handwriting. Inside was a folded construction paper card decorated with glittery stickers and a crayon drawing of a golden retriever and a little girl holding hands. Dear Lucky and Mr. Brent, guess what? I got a puppy. Her name is Ginger. She looks just like Lucky but smaller and with floppy ears. I teach her the signal every day. She doesn't know it yet, but I think she will. I love you both forever. Love, Lily. Brent chuckled, rubbing Lucky's head. You've inspired the next generation, buddy. He slipped the card into the box and poured himself a cup of coffee. Outside his kitchen window, a group of children was walking past on a school field trip, laughing and pointing at the mural painted on the side of the town library. The mural had gone up just last month, funded by community donations. It featured Lily in her yellow dress holding up the hand signal beside Lucky. Behind them was a backdrop of stars and the words in bold blue paint, even the smallest voice can cry for help, and the world will listen. Brent hadn't wanted to be included in the painting, but the town insisted. So there he was, off to the side, badge visible, with a slight smile and a leash in hand. Not a hero, just someone who listened. That afternoon, Brent was invited to a local training session for new first responders. They had added a new module called Recognizing Silent Signals, the Lily Protocol. He watched from the back of the room as instructors ran through scenarios, showing videos, having officers practice, identifying subtle gestures. It was surreal. He wasn't used to seeing a quiet rescue become a movement, but here it was, echoing across states and cities. Lily's small gesture turned into a tool that now lived in the minds of thousands. Afterward, a young officer approached him. Sir, she said, clearly nervous, I just wanted to thank you. I used the signal last week. A kid at a gas station gave it to me. Turned out he'd run away from an abusive home. No one else saw it, but I did because of Lily. Brent didn't know what to say. He just shook her hand and nodded. Good job, officer. That's what it's all about. Later that evening, he pulled up to the Greer's house for a visit. He didn't come often, just when invited, but today was special. Lily was graduating from her therapy program, and they were holding a small backyard celebration. Lily came running across the grass the moment she saw him. Mr. Brent, Lucky. She knelt beside Lucky, hugging him tightly as the golden retriever wagged with excitement. Ginger, her new puppy, barked from the porch. Emily brought out lemonade, and Matt grilled burgers as laughter filled the air. No cameras, no reporters, just peace. Brent leaned back in a lawn chair, watching Lily and Ginger chase butterflies, and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: closure. Not because everything had been fixed, trauma doesn't vanish, but because the little girl who once sat quietly behind a car window, too scared to speak, was now laughing freely, knowing the world had listened when she needed it most. And Lucky. He lay beside Brent, eyes closed, tail flicking in the grass, still on duty, always ready.